Katie. I'm 33 weeks pregnant and I am type 1 diabetic and have been for almost 2 years now. When I was diagnosed, I had every symptom of type 1 diabetes but didn't pick up on it. I'd lost like 2.5 stone. I was drinking so much water and I had to basically be admitted to hospital for a couple of days. And whilst I was there, the first thing I said was, does this affect me having children? Because there are a lot of people that choose not to have children when they're diabetic because of the strain to themselves and the risks for the child. In my mind, the sooner that I were to have a baby, the less of an impact it would have on my body. If I'd been diabetic for a longer amount of time, then the complications would have been higher. So although I was ready to have a child, I definitely brought it forward a few years than I would have maybe beforehand. So being type 1 diabetic and thinking about getting pregnant, the NHS, they actually offer a help to conceive section area. There's a team of people basically that you can meet with. They will take you through the steps that you need to take to prepare your body to be able to have a baby. So that's a case of making sure that your blood sugars are within quite a tighter range for a certain amount of time. So generally they ask you to get in touch maybe like a year or so to let them know that you're trying to conceive. They'll put you onto higher doses of folic acid and different multivitamins and things which you would usually take once you get pregnant. Instead you'd be taking those a few months prior to make sure that your body is set and ready. They obviously have a big support network there, and they're generally the people that you then work with throughout pregnancy. Luckily at my hospital, so I'm at St Thomas's in London, the team are amazing, and I would have usually seen them about every 3 months beforehand for an appointment, and then since being pregnant I've spoken to them every fortnight, and at the beginning I was speaking to them weekly. The main areas of risk are kidneys and your eyes with diabetes and pregnancy. So a lot of people have kidney failure, and it's just a strain on your kidneys. So if you already have kidney problems beforehand, then obviously you're going to make those worse. And same with problems with your eyes. But the NHS is brilliant, and I've already had 3 or 4 eye tests, I think, this pregnancy so far. Having diabetes anyway, not being pregnant, is like having another job, because it's something that's constantly on your mind. It's something you're constantly having to deal with. Like, I need to know how much exercise I'm doing that day. If I'm planning on walking to the shop, I need to be aware that I'm walking to the shop so that I can think about how much I'm going to inject in the morning, what food I'm going to eat, and all sorts. But obviously it affects you as how much you let it affect you. You can still be spontaneous, but if I want to be spontaneous, I'll just make sure I have like an apple and an orange in my pocket if I decide I want to walk a little bit longer, because otherwise my blood sugar will drop and I won't be able to walk for a spell. It's just you have to be prepared. So a day in the life of being pregnant and diabetic. Prior to being pregnant, I probably would have tested my blood sugar maybe around 10 to 12 times a day, of every time before eating any food. And then if I felt any symptoms of having a hypo, which is having low blood sugar, or having a hyper, which is having high blood sugar. But whilst being pregnant, I have stopped being able to feel if I'm having a hypo, which is quite a common thing that happens. So it means I'm at risk of fainting or collapsing, and then obviously potentially hurting the baby and not feeling it coming. So I have a sensor now which constantly tracks my blood sugar. I still check my blood sugar probably like 5 or 6 times a day, because this takes a reading every 5 minutes, and then I get an alert to my phone, or I get woken up every other hour during the night, preparation for having a baby. But my day would start with me taking my morning injections. So I inject probably 7 or 8 times a day, which has gone up a bit with pregnancy. The amounts go up steadily weekly, so I take at the moment about 3 times the amount of insulin that I would have before. That's to be expected. Surprisingly, as soon as I give birth, because of the hormonal changes, instantly as the baby is here, I will go back to all my pre-pregnancy amounts, because there's such a change of hormones, which I'm quite excited about. But I inject before every meal. So at the moment I inject about an hour before I eat, because it needs to take much longer to take effect than it would have in the past, which obviously, being pregnant and being hungry at any time is quite hard to handle. Or being hungry, having to know what you want in an hour and then realising when the food comes, my stomach actually can't take that much food, but I've injected for all of it. I can only fit half of it in. So I've obviously got to eat it, or I've got to get something in me, because otherwise I've taken too much medication. Yeah, and it's just constantly, probably like it ends up feeling like it's every hour or every 2 hours that I'm at least having to do something towards it. And then during the night, alarms going off saying that I'm going high or I'm going low. So me and my poor partner, it's like a siren. I don't really know what happens, obviously, when I have the baby by the bed. I'm hoping that he's like becoming used to the noises and will be able to sleep through it. And it's just lots of snacks on my bedside table, lots of crackers. With diabetes comes a lot of tiredness, and generally people are lethargic a lot of the time, which I do tend to push through and push myself as much as I can, but then some days I'm just don't have the same amount of energy, which in a way I did feel set me up a bit for pregnancy, because I was already used to the tiredness, so I feel like I can battle through it a little bit longer. But you need to obviously take a break when you need to take a break. So in terms of my birth plan, at the very beginning of my pregnancy, I was advised that I should be induced at 37 weeks, which is part of the government guidelines. And basically the benefits of having the baby a few weeks earlier outweigh the benefits of continuing on with the pregnancy. So I always knew that things would come on early. Luckily, my diabetic team are super supportive, and they're very, very keen for everything to be as natural, or basically as however I want it, as possible. I'm obviously including as much as I can, but I'm very aware that if things change or if there's a problem, things might go out the window. So the labour ward is the right place for me to be, for my own health and for the baby's health, so that the baby can be monitored and I can be monitored. To be honest, I'm actually not concerned about being on the labour ward just because of the amount of hospital appointments that I have. I'm basically in hospital every 2 weeks, and because I'm so familiar with the staff in the hospital and my way around the hospital, that I'm not scared to be in hospital. I'm quite comfortable being there, so it's almost helped having lots of appointments. The hypnobirthing digital pack has been amazing, both for me and actually my other half. He seems to be benefiting from it so much, which is amazing. The breathing exercises in particular, I found a lot lately that I've been getting a lot of heart palpitations, and that's massively helped me. But to be honest, it's more the outlook on hypnobirthing, and just hearing the facts, it really just sets my mind at ease.